as Black Americans, people are more concerned with getting paid and having to pay bills and contend with the rat race than really trying to plug in to who we are as a people, as one organism, and moving accordingly. That's the way they set the system up, so we can continuously be distracted, right? Continuously having debates about who and what we are. We need to understand that we got spirit, okay? There's good spirit, there's bad spirit. These spirits, if you want to look at it religiously, are falling under God, right? They got us confused about who our God is. Some of us want to get into the monotheistic religious gods. But these gods don't predate the original gods. If the original people on this planet are so-called black people with woolly hair, then the gods are as well. We are more concerned with handling the rat race. Okay, these conversations about us being Indians and original Americans and not Africans and all this shit is a smokescreen. This is a distraction. Okay, the ghost is losing power, right? And they got us in these elementary debates. When I got scientific on them, okay, going past some of the ideology and the spells that was placed on these brothers, going past some of their expressions, they wasn't ready for science. They might be talking about science now, but this work I'm about to show you is from 2016. It was a lot going on at that time. It was the Moors, right? It was the Nawapian Moors, okay? It was Egyptologists. It was still the Hebrew Israelites. You know, you had brothers out there that was coming off the block freestyling consciousness. It was very conscious at that time. It was a lot going on. This information that I'm going to show you, I don't subscribe or prescribe to some of the information in here as far as who I think we are as a people. We're the original people. Like, I don't call myself a Moor. Not to say that I'm not a Moor. I don't call myself a Moor. I'm not into all of these descriptions anymore. These descriptions are coming from the ghosts, okay, and the straight-haired mankind races. And so don't get caught up with some of the terminology that I'm using. This is 2016. Like I said, a lot was going on. All right. And so these images that you're going to see as well, these images I created myself. You understand? The symbology and the information behind the symbolism is deep and is ancient and is black. Okay? So let's proceed. And what was I rocking in 2016? Okay. Some may say yay. Some may say nay. How far do you melaninite people, dark-skinned people with woolly hair, people with original woolly hair, how far do we really go back? Can they tell us when they was not there? Dan Calloway told you we was from Gondwana land, right? Who is Ta? Okay. Who is the god Ta? The god Ta, if you do proper research, is a true African god. We don't know the equivalent of this god in America or South America at the time that Ta was worshipped. And we don't know any attributes of the gods in America or South America or wherever outside of Ptah, aside from gods in Mesopotamia. Okay, at the time that Ptah is worshipped, right? The name Ptah as a god is ancient, and this dark-skinned sun god, prior to and into the evolutionary cycle, was known as the father and creator of all gods. Does any monotheistic god exist at this time? In ancient times, the African pygmy was called Ptah and worshipped as the personification of the original creator. The pygmies are from the sun, and we are from the pygmies, and this means we bigger Ptahs through growth over time. Matter and space are sons too. Can you dig it? This is coming from the 9-Ball Liberation series, right? All right, this is some information on Ptah, and Ptah coming with the divine word. Okay. There was no divine word of the monotheistic gods on the planet at that time doing any creating, because the language used to describe the activities and functions and creations of these gods, the language came later on. If you can dig what I'm saying, the divine word used by Yahweh or used by the Lord in Genesis is Dabar. Okay? And that's a very impactful word, Dabar, in the Hebrew language. It means a lot, but at the most, it means speech and divine communication. Okay? So with Ptah, he is considered the demiurge who existed before all other things, and by his willfulness, thought the world, by mind. Okay? See, you don't get into that when you're studying Genesis and studying the monotheistic religions, that all of this is working by way of mind. Your mind, right? It was first conceived by thought, okay? When you say conceived, right, another way of looking at that is a woman giving birth. She conceived, right? So, it could be symbolic. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying that Ptah was pregnant, but when he conceived, he came from the invisible to the visible and realized by the word. Okay, you got to look up the word and the breakdown of the word in this language. Ptah conceives the world by thought of his heart and gives life through the magic of his word. That's no different than what is going on in Genesis 1:1. Right? That which Ptah commanded was created. In the beginning, God created, with which the constituents of nature, fauna, and flora are contained. He also plays a role in the preservation of the world and the permanence of the royal function. 2016. Okay. The gold, right? Mansa Musa. They say at the time of his traveling upon the earth, he was one of the richest brothers on the planet, if not the richest. When it comes down to nations, okay, we don't know what's going on in America at this time, but if you're an original American, okay, you should be like some will say, man, they know a lot of African history and don't know American history, right? That's what y'all should be bringing. That y'all the original people scientifically, biologically from America if you have no African ancestry. This doesn't even need to be an argument. You have to contend with so much more. The premise that I'm giving you is we're the original people on this planet. Okay, we predate religion, right? Okay, so comparing then to today and saying it should be the same is not understanding nature. The relation of Ta, man, and Re, sun. This is a fact. Okay? Don't get stuck in the terminology. But it applies. The sunshine of the Ethiopian man is the true gold of the lands. This is the aura in the Fatahite Moor. Let's look at the etymology of aura and see how I applied, right? So it goes back to 1870. It is a word in the dictionary. It is also considered a noun, person, place, or thing, right? Subtle emanation around living beings, made by a personality, an aroma or subtle emanation. Okay? From Latin, breeze, wind, the upper air. When you look at ether, it's connected to the upper air. Aura, breath. When you go into breath, okay, haya in Hebrew, from hava or hawa, breath, cool breeze, okay? I'm telling you to take it further back though. Air in motion, to rise, lift, hold, suspended. So you should get that from my breakdown right here, right? Aura, okay? In the Tahite Moor, okay? AU being the chemical symbol of gold. Look at the chemical symbol of gold, and Ra being known as the sun god in the Tahite world empires. Then I proceeded to give you the elements of the sun, okay? Predominantly hydrogen, but it's hydrogen, helium, carbon, okay? When you say we're melaninites, melanated, right? Carbon is the reason for this. Nitrogen, oxygen, but it's this whole thing though. Hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, oxygens, right? So that's the sun. The elements of the Tahite demigod and goddess on earth, the first indigenous humans, okay? Many of y'all talking about we the indigenous people on the planet wasn't speaking this in 2016, depending on your age. But it don't say the first indigenous Africans. It don't say the first indigenous Americans. It's the first indigenous humans. And to be black is to be a part of the human family. Okay? If you can dig that. Because we're not mankind. But I proceeded to back that up. The breakdown in the body of these elements. 65% oxygen, carbon, 18% hydrogen, 10% nitrogen, 3%. Okay. These elements are also in our foods. These are the type of foods that you should be eating. foods with these specific elements in them. Okay. You also see that it's followed up in the DNA. So dig, right? Melanin, right? The elements from the sun and DNA all are using the same elements. All are using the same elements. All right. Oh, but Yahweh created the suns. You're going to have to scientifically explain that, because what I am showing you that these elements are of matter. Creating from the invisible to the visible, there's elements, there are properties out there that are of matter, registering as matter, but can't be seen by the eye. And so when you start talking about God created, you start going into mythology. You have to be able to explain God. Okay? If God created matter and is not of matter, how did this manifest? Okay? How did it all manifest? So we are the original people on this planet, this 2016. I'm going to show you what the problem is, though. At the end of the day, the problem with Black Americans or Black people anywhere, okay, is having our mind hijacked by three ether ghosts who's working for the moon god. If we are sun people, then there has to be moon people on the planet. If you can understand, we're dealing with the laws of duality. Check out the universal laws. Hebrewism, Mosesism, Islam, Muhammadism is not necessarily the problem for Black people. What's the real problem for Black people is westernized Christianity that came through the medieval times. Medieval white Christianity, right? Because that's not true. Okay, that's the real problem. That's not true. This was taken from older creation stories of Black people. They don't want you to see that. Okay. They would lose it. They would lose it. Right? All the straight haired mankind races would lose it if this image that they had to go to church and see would they couldn't be able to get with it. Could you imagine? Instead of going into the Southern churches, we grew up in church, especially if you my age, you've been in a couple of churches in the hood. White Jesus was hanging up on the wall. Come on, you couldn't say that you didn't have some type of issue with that, some type of confliction when you know your people out in the streets is suffering. And then you go to church to get the word of God, right? You're going to get the word. They give you the gospel, the gospel, but you're going to get the word. And then the word sound good when your head is down, when you got your eyes closed, when you feeling it, and then you look up and then Jesus, this guy is looking at you. How does that make you feel? Well, I know when I was young, I told my grandma I can't deal with it. I can't be looking at that guy. I'm not going to church. They will lose it if this was a Black image. Okay. They had to taint are royalty. They had to. What else could they do? We got to really be studying, man. All right? Even if you say you were an original American, the colonizer came on you, man. What did he slap on your brain? He put the spell on your brain. What did he put on your brain? For your people for a little while, changed their name, took their language in the land and all of that stuff, right? What was really changed, though? They applied God. God is a German word. Come on, you gotta get with the facts, man. Every time you say God, that's you talking to the German God. God, Old English, 800, right? OE, Supreme Being, Deity, the Christian God. Don't you feel like that after you drink a whole 40 ounce of OE? Image of a God, God-like person from Proto-Germanic, though. Okay, you can say Guthan. You can say that. That's another way of saying this. Old Saxon, Old Frisian, Dutch, God, Old High German, got. You got. We got. By the ghost God. Okay. Then it's good, right? It's good. It's good. Okay. Which is good. Good, that which is invoked. Come on, you got to walk with me, right? That which is invoked. Okay. They come out with the horror movies, man. Horror, death, action, drama, dramatic, thriller. Source also of Old Church Slavonic Zovo. Okay. Novo. This is when you saying Nupu and Zupu, right? It's in what we dealing with, but we ain't looking at what we dealing with. Slavonic. Ain't y'all, this is where the slave come from? Okay. So if you saying God, you talking slave talk, right? Sanskrit, Huda, invoked, an epitaph of Indra. Some of us would like to say, oh yeah, we the original Indians, Hindus, dark skin, straight hair, mankind races. Okay, the scientific science approach that I gave is flawless of why there's no woolly haired person started anywhere first outside of the continent being called Africa. If you want to take it back to Pangea and Gondwana, still Africa is the headquarters of this planet. You cannot challenge that. But let's go back into the definition. But some trace it to pi. Do y'all know what this is? Proto-Indo-European languages. This not even Afro-Asiatic languages, the languages of Ishmael and Isaac. Abraham, back to it, Akkadian and all of that stuff. This Indo-European. Poured to pour libation. Okay, the Bible is a dead book. You pour out a little liquor. Referring to a burial mound, right? Then you go down, see also Zeus. In either case, not related to good. Okay. Originally a neuter noun in Germanic, the gender shifted to masculine after the coming of Christianity. Okay. So let's slap facts on it. The ghost god and the Caucasian race are three in the sense that they, as a race, exist on the bottom of the universal smack, space matter in all time circle of order. Okay. That's why they say we feel like, man, we living in hell, because we are. Okay. Because when they appear on the planet, it's hell on the planet. At the number 3 position, the Caucasian's race's degree of intelligence is limited to 333 of the perfect number 1000. 1 is almighty mind, and the 3 zeros stand for space, matter, and time. The Caucasian race is the ghost moon cycle man who was ghostized, extracted, okay, from the Phoenician and Indian races for disobedience to the laws and the commandments of the sun god Re Haderachti. This is based on having sex outside of the recommended time to have sex and reproduce. Okay. It was a population law on these people, and they broke it. The moon god is indeed the god of death, and with this god in the image and likeness of the oppressors of this planet comes disunity and economic upheaval for the collective of the Tahai race. We can agree that it's been hard out here for a pimp. Okay. People in mental positivity, right? Today is not yesterday. Okay. In fact, we had to go through this upheaval. For the collective of the Tahai race, this God breeds jealousy, envy, separatism, and individualism. This God is the epitome of lust and moral decay. When you tie this God back to Bacchus, the wine bibber, and Zeus, the great white porno star of Olympia. Okay. Imagery. This is proven to be true today. Okay. Do they hate us? Right? And we see what's cracking. We see who the president is. One.